What's going on, guys? What's going on, girls? Sal here, back again. We're going to be breaking down, taking a deeper look, not a first look, a deeper look at this Week 15 slate. Again, Week 15, it's nuts that we're already here. But like I always do, I'm going to be going position by position and putting players now, not just that I have interest in, but putting some players into a watch pool. So we're going to be going back and forth between Draftkings and Draft Dashboard. If you guys have been here, you know what Draft Dashboard is. If you're new here, you can go in the description below at any time. 30 days for $1. You can sign up for Draft Dashboard, get access to my player pool for the week. What I'm going to do, it's Thursday here, right? So I'm not anywhere near my final lineups. That's probably comes Saturday night. But I'm going to get an original pool right now, probably around 40 players. I usually shrink that down to like 12 to 15 for cash. Come maybe Friday or Saturday, and then shrink it down to maybe 30 to 35 for my tournament allocations, if I even use all those players. But those are the ones that I want to choose from, right, and have in all of my lineups. So we'll make that right now, right? We'll make that right now, and then if you guys want, you can sign up, like I said, for 30 days for $1. Description below. You can see what my finalized pool will be come Friday, come Saturday, whatever it might be. I'm just going to put in any of these guys that I talk on and give you guys some other ideas of where I'm going. So yeah, let's get into this. Welcome if you're new here. Again, name's Sal. Welcome to the channel. I appreciate it if you could hit that like button if you're watching this right now, whether you're new or you're a returning subscriber. And I appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button. We want to get to 1,000 subscribers as soon as possible. My goal is by the end of the year. We're a couple hundred away, with a couple weeks left in the year. It'd be great if we can get there. A Christmas gift for me, for sure. Love the support, guys. Appreciate it. Also, there's a contest going out. We just paid out last week's winner. Who's going to score the most DK fantasy points on Sunday's main slate? Wide receiver position. Have to be a subscriber. Drop it in the comments below. We'll get through that on Monday with spinning the wheel. A lot of people liking the wheel. So, where are we going to start, right? So we're going to start at quarterback. Let's get this onto the Sunday main slate. Main right there. Again, only 11 games this week. We got a couple Saturday games. I'm not complaining. I like main slates with 13 games on Sundays if that means there's no buys. But if we get games on Saturday for football, again, not complaining at all. So quarterback, one thing I'll point out is that I'm looking to go down this week, right? I'm looking to pay down. I think that might be a strategy a lot of people are going to do, which usually I like to try and get away from the field. But I think the strategy is the right strategy, right? You got Russell Wilson at the top. I don't want anything to do with him. Yes, he's going up against San Francisco. He is going to be on the road, but I don't think that'll be a big deal, especially San Francisco's a friendly place to play these days. But at his price, he has to be super efficient, right? I put out a tweet a couple weeks back, and I mean, we could see him right here. Like, he's throwing the ball 20 times. He's throwing the ball 17 times, scoring 4 touchdowns. Like, he's just insanely efficient. He went 3 for 3 for 101 yards and 2 touchdowns back in San Francisco last time. Yes, he went for 25 against them, but at 6,700, do you want to pay up for that when we definitely have value lower down? I don't want to do it because, yes, he's been efficient. He's been keeping that efficiency. Not something I'm really looking to touch. Big Ben, highest total game of the week. Definitely somebody you want to have in your allocations. So I'm tempted to watch list him, but at his price, yes, he's at home. We're going to watch list him, but this is a guy I'm probably going to filter out. Like I mentioned, I want to go down, right? I want to go down in price this week. Let's filter all these prices out. So you get Andy Luck again, not in a great matchup, but Andy Luck, he's been absolutely killing it this year, right? Like, he had one outlier game when his team got shut out. And when your team gets shut out, you're probably not going to have a great game, right? 250 yards. But he's throwing multiple touchdowns like every other week. It's just every other week besides that, basically. And it's just absolutely insane the year that he's having. Low-key having a really good year with his team now, getting close to a playoff spot after knocking down Houston. But Andy Luck's the guy I'm going to stay away from this week. Just personally going to stay away from that. I'm going to watch like Kirk Cousins. Obviously, his offensive coordinator, DeFilippo. Biggest name on the block last year, and then this year you can see nobody wants him. Team averaging like 15 points per game over like the last 6, and obviously they just dropped 30 like on my Packers. Just nuts though. But I like targeting these spots where the offensive coordinator switch. It gives the team some pep. You saw the Packers come out and put up the most points they've scored all year. If anything, it's just a switch. You know you're going to be getting something different now. This boring old offense. They have 2 #1 wide receivers on their team in Diggs and Thielen, and they have tons of talent. Dalvin Cook, Kyle Rudolph. They have tons of talent on that team, and they're just not utilizing it properly, right? So I think Cousins is in a good spot against Miami. Great place to play. And I like him this week, right? 6,200. But again, I want to pay down. So 6,200 might be the most expensive I'm willing to pay, but I'm probably going to come down. Lamar Jackson, I like Lamar Jackson. He's probably the guy that I like the most based on his price and his upside. I mean, we go to Lamar. I played him, I think the second week that he played, right after I missed his 100-yard week, rushing when he hit the 100-yard bonus. But I got him here at 71 yards, got in the end zone. He did good, right? He did better, his best week yet, at 22 points. 22.22, that's a odd number. But his price just isn't coming up that much, and it's nuts what his floor is doing, rushing. 75, 67. He's on the ground. He's getting you a lock for like 7 points, and he can get in the end zone. And he could also hit that 100-yard bonus like we've seen. Now he's going up against Tampa, which Tampa's defense, since they changed the coordinator, has actually improved, but on the road they're still pretty bad. But overall they've improved. The narrative used to be Tampa was absolutely awful, one of the worst defenses of the year, which is true. But recently they've actually been doing pretty good since the change. But again, on the road's a way to target them. Rushing the ball is a way to target them. If you go outside the numbers, which Lamar has been going outside the numbers running the ball. And I think Lamar's just, yes, he's not going to get you there in the air at all, although he did have 2 touchdown passes against the Chiefs. And he can do that against Tampa Bay. But I think he's solid. The only thing that worries me here about Lamar, and the only reason that I might not make him like my cash game quarterback or put so much weight on him in tournaments, is because Joe Flacco's back. I know that they already named... I got like some virus or something. It keeps popping up like other windows. I know that they already named Lamar the starter, but Flacco is there. Like, what happens if Lamar has another week where he throws an interception or 2, right? So, yes, he's at home, so that does help. I believe he's at home, right? He is at home, so that does help for sure. But again, do they yank him quickly? That's something that I definitely worry about. Definitely a possibility. But Lamar is somebody I definitely like a lot. Josh Allen, I'll touch on him. I'm not playing him. Yes, I know that he's been doing, like, going off, right? We go to Josh Allen here. He's been absolutely crushing it on the ground. Basically 3 straight games of 100 yards if you want to count this one. Just absolutely going off. But here's the thing. You compare Lamar and Josh Allen at very similar prices. The tweet went out earlier this week on DFS Twitter, and it's a great tweet. They both had like 500 yards over the past couple of weeks. And 408 of like Lamar or Josh Allen's 500 yards are in scrambles, right? They're not design run. They're not designing runs for him. He's just too quick to leave the pocket. Might be leaving some opportunities on the table. Yes, he's picking up the ground. Yards on the ground. He's got Mike Vick like rushing numbers right now, going for 3 straight weeks of like 100 yards. But it's not sustainable because they're not designing these runs. And now he gets Detroit, who gives up the least yardage to rushing QBs, right? Cam Newton went for 2 yards on them. Mitch Trubisky went for like 10. Least yards on the year. They've given up like 40 total yards on the year. They play a zone. Makes it less rushing lanes when it's not man-to-man. So I don't think he has as much upside here. Whereas Lamar Jackson, on his like 500 yards or whatever it is, over 400 of those are from designed runs. So they want him to run the ball, right? They don't want Josh Allen to be running the ball. It takes a top 10 pick on him. Yes, Lamar Jackson's a first-round quarterback or whatever he might have ended up being. Late first round, whatever it was. He is a weapon, but he's a weapon because of his legs. Like Josh Allen, yes, he has some legs, but they want him to throw the ball. He has a big arm. Allen, don't like it. I think Detroit finally stops him. I'm going Lamar over him. Aaron Rodgers was in our cash game lineup. That probably is not going to stand. Obviously some bias from me, and also just his price at $5,700. Aaron Rodgers $5,700 is an insane price. He's going to be in some tournament allocations, maybe as of right now. Again, it's Thursday. Saturday, I'm going to be filtering this down by probably, we're going to have 40 players in here. And now I'll probably filter out about 10. That's like, what, 3 from each position, basically. Aaron Rodgers could be one of those for sure, but he does great things in Chicago even, and against Chicago. He owns Chicago. They're in a spot where they need to win, right? They have decent playoff shots if they go 8-7-1. Now, not decent, but based on last week, they won, and they had every single team that basically needed to lose lost. So they have decent odds, a realistic hope at least now, for a playoff shot. So he needs to win, right? Chicago, yes, they're playing for the division, but they might, off of a big win against the Rams, they might come out a little lax. I like Aaron Rodgers. I like the Packers this week as well. I like the Packers in general. I'm a Packers fan. So a little biased there. But at $5,700, he's too cheap. Jameis, I like him. This is something different. This is contrarian. Not a cash game play. But this is just me being contrarian. Yes, he's on the road, so it's dangerous, right? But at $5,600, I think you put him into a couple of lineups. Yes, low allocation. Maybe you have him in, if you're putting in 20 lineups, you have him in 1 or 2. But I think nobody's going to be on him, and we know what this offense does, right? It's like a top 10 scoring position for the quarterback position in the past decade, number 2 on the year behind Patty Mahomes, between him and Fitzpatrick. Baltimore is scary. We saw them just absolutely shut down the Texans, or not the Texans, the Falcons in Atlanta. We saw them do pretty decent things last week against the Chiefs, even though Patty Mahomes still had a good game. And I kind of compare the Chiefs to Tampa Bay in a sense that they both have pretty high-flying offenses. So, yeah, they slowed them down, but they didn't completely shut down the Chiefs. I think Jameis can have a decent game here, but again, not a spot that I'm going to, have Jameis. This is probably, right here, I already have 5 guys watched, right? I'm not going to go past the weekend with more than 5 guys watched. Like in my final allocation, it's probably going to be 5 at most, maybe 4. The other guys that I want to just put in here, both guys from this game. Oakland, so Jeff Driscoll is going to have a lot of time to throw. He's cheap. Oakland gets no pressure, but the Bengals also get no pressure as well. So Derek Carr's actually having like an incredible year. You want to compare Derek Carr's year this year? There's a tweet by Ian Hartitz. Again, follow him on Twitter. He's a great guy. Good for DFS stuff. Derek Carr's having a pretty decent year, right? I mean, maybe not fantasy-wise overall, but I still do think he's having a decent fantasy year. If you're going over 15 points for a guy who's been around the 5K range all year, he's getting there like 50% of the time. But Derek Carr, based on this year, based on the MVP year that people said that he was having an MVP season 2 years ago, he has a higher rating than that year. He has similar completion percentage, similar higher yards per game. The only difference is his touchdown interception ratio is just slightly off. But he's having basically as good, if not a better year than that year. Nobody's talking about it, though, because, one, Oakland's terrible. There's a lot more drama going around with them letting Mack go, with them letting Bruce Irvin go, with them letting Amari Cooper go. Everybody making fun of that. Everybody making fun of John Gruden. Stuff coming out about Derek Carr crying, whatever it might be. He's having actually a pretty solid year for Derek Carr's standards, probably maybe a career year even. So I'm going to put both those guys up who are in both of them not facing pressure, so we know there's going to be less turnovers when that happens, more time to throw the ball, more time to find open receivers, bigger plays. They're both set up for explosive plays, the number one explosive play spot on the slate. The other thing I will mention, coming back here, Tampa Bay is ranked, I think, number 4, and Baltimore is ranked number 6 in pace per game. So that's the best matchup of the week in terms of pace. 2 top 10 pace teams. So that means that these guys should get a couple more plays, maybe a couple more rushes for Lamar. If it's 3 more rushes for Lamar and he gets you 20 more yards, that's pretty significant, especially if some of those are around the goal line. Same thing for Winston. He's getting an extra series in there, and that might mean 3 to like 9 plays for Jameis, throwing the ball 4 or 5 more times in there, 6 more times even, since they don't run the ball as much. That could end up to being one more touchdown in the game. They could each get 1 more possession. That's things that you definitely want to look at pace-wise. So we got some of our watched guys in there at the quarterback position. I think we got 7 total. Again, I'll probably chop that down to around 4 or 5 by the weekend. If you want to get access to that, in the description below, you can check it out. Draft dashboard. 30 days for $1. So let's go to the running back position now. And these guys are going to automatically get started for me. So Saquon and Zeke, both in the 9K range. Both just absolute guys that I want to play, right? Zeke I like better, actually. Now, in a vacuum, I think I like Saquon better. He's more athletic. He has more big play upside. But based on matchup, based on price, Zeke could get $400 in savings if you're going to play one. And Zeke has the better matchup. The Colts are dead last in the league against pass-catching running backs. It's been all season long Atlanta, right? Everybody's been harping on Atlanta. The Bengals even. Tampa Bay even. All those teams have improved. I mean, obviously Atlanta hasn't improved, but the Colts have just been that bad, giving up the most receptions to running backs in the league. Zeke coming off a career game in terms of receptions with 12 and 13 targets, I believe. Nice savings for him. The only difference is that Zeke is a road dog, which you usually want to stay away from these situations, but it is in a divisional matchup. It's not a big road dog, so I don't mind it, especially since he is one of the 2 guys that you kind of have to play this week. If you don't have Zeke or Saquon in your tournament allocations or games this week, it's kind of hard to get there. Saquon, on the flip side, he's at home, right? Saquon is at home, and he's playing Tennessee, and the man just doesn't even touch the ball in the second half anymore, right? These last 3 out of the 4 weeks, he hasn't even really played in the second half. He played 31 snaps as a starting running back, and he got 14 carries and 5 targets. 19 of the 31 snaps on offense that Saquon was in for went towards him, right? So you could take that as it is. Without Odell, maybe he gets even bigger bump. He could have broke probably all the rushing records last year or last week if they didn't take him out in the second half or play him on like 1 or 2 snaps, whatever it was. I think it was like 5, I don't even know. But in the first half, he had 31, and he touched the ball, or had opportunity 19 times to touch the ball, 18 of those times. That's absolutely nuts. Saquon's an absolute beast. He can break it off at any point. I kind of want to prioritize, and my goal this week is to pay down at quarterback, pay down at tight end, mid-range to low-range at wide receiver, which I think is very viable, and get these 2 guys, right? I'm tired of going down for the value. Now, over the long term, it's plus EQ to play a guy like Samuels last week, to play a guy like Spencer Ware the week before, especially since they're in great situations. But playing both of them, like I did in a couple lineups last week, if you check out my blog, you can check out the blog. It's in the description below. This is the blog. Made it last weekend. It's actually pretty neat to have a blog now. Going to be posting multiple times a week, at some point, hopefully daily, once I get much more time. Now, the finals week is going to be over here at Penn State. Shout out Penn State. But check out the blog. I talked about it there. Just playing 2 value running backs, you're leaving so much on the table when these guys, really, DraftKings can't price them enough, right? They can't price these guys. Even if they price them at 10K, they're still value going for, like, literally 30 points a week with their rolls. Zeke is averaging 29.8 points since Amari came there instead of 19. Over 10 more points a game because Amari is there taking some pressure away, which means that he can go get the ball 20-plus times and get himself in the end zone, and he's getting the ball in the air as well. They're checking the ball down. They're running screens through him in this pass game. Absolutely great stats from Zeke. Guy to go for 25-plus basically every single week, or has the upside to go for 35-plus every single week. Same thing for Saquon if they play him in the second half. If Odell doesn't play, I don't think people can take away Saquon. That's how great he is, because his line's already bad, and they're still getting him the rock. He's still getting in the end zone. So, again, running back I want to pay up for. We had Duke in our, or David Johnson, not Duke, David friggin' Johnson in our first look lineup, and I still like David Johnson at 7,100. He's definitely affordable, almost in that 6K mid-tier range. And again, we don't know what Connor's going to do. I don't want to touch Leonard Fournette. I think Fournette's a great contrarian play in tournaments. Maybe I'll get there towards the end of the week. But I also think Fournette's a bum. In his career, he's averaging like 3.7 yards per carry. He's only great, and people think he's great, really because what? He like gets in from the 1-yard line a bunch in a game. That's not the way the NFL is. You got to throw the ball to some of these guys who can actually catch the ball, which Fournette can actually catch the ball, but be a little bit more nimble. And for his volume, he's great, right? He should be priced at 7,500 if he's going to touch the ball 25-plus times and get all the goal line work and be able to catch some balls. I just don't want to go there. But again, later in the week, based on what ownership's looking like, I haven't really looked into it too much. I might end up there. Aaron Jones is a guy that I want to put into some lineups, but on the road against Chicago in a game where they're going to be underdogs, it's tough, right? Like, I think Aaron Rodgers can get it done. I think Aaron Jones can too, because he's just an absolute beast when he touches the ball. But that front in Chicago, they're like top 3 against the run, whatever it is. It's just scary to go up against them. Now, Aaron Jones does have ability in the receiving game to catch some balls. Will probably end up getting a lot of the goal line work. He out-touched, what's his name? Jamal Williams, who Jamal Williams started last week, and that almost put I had Aaron Jones in a ton of lineups. That almost killed me. But he ended up out-touching Jamal Williams 20-4, so there's nothing to worry about there. I think Philbin's actually got his head on straight, unlike Mike McCarthy. And Aaron Jones is just a lock for decent points, right? 15 is his lowest in the past 5 weeks, with the upside of 25 to 30-plus any single week that he goes out there if he just gets the opportunities like we see here. In his career, he's only gone over 17 carries. I don't think he's ever seen 18 carries. Maybe one time last year he might have, but 17 carries twice this year. So he's getting the usage a little bit more as of late. But overall, like if he's still going to get this work, that's not great. So Jones is a guy that I'm going to put in my tournament allocations. Probably definitely not cash games, but again, awful matchup on the road. He just has the talent to get there. And again, when you're just talking about tournament allocations, you have to consider ownership. Ownership's going to be high on a guy like this. It's going to be high on these guys. It's going to be low on a guy like this because you can go up to these guys if you wanted to spend a little bit more. It's going to be low on a guy like this because why not go down to this range right here where you see Tariq Cohen, who's been killing it in a good spot against Green Bay. And then I think one of the most owned guys on the slate is going to be Joe Mixon because DraftKings just absolutely mispriced this guy, right? $6,100 for Joe Mixon, a workhorse running back. There might be some concerns that the Bengals are out of it. Maybe they try and play a little bit more of the rookie, Mark Walton. But there's been no concern with Gio Bernard taking work away from Joe Mixon, especially in a game where they were trailing a lot, where you would expect that. Mixon still got 6 targets, 5 catches, put in a pretty solid floor at 7.7 points on the receiving game alone. And we know that he has a pretty decent receiving game. Driscoll's been not opposed to looking to him in those situations. 26 carries, 111 yards, and a touchdown. Got the 100-yard bonus, got the touchdown. He had over 30 total touches in this game. Now he goes up against Oakland at home in a great matchup where it shouldn't be a game where they're going to be trailing the whole game like the Chargers. But even if it is somehow against Oakland at home, we know that he could still get it done going for 27.8 points. The big thing here is, 1, his matchup, 2, his role in this offense. He's going to be touching the ball 20-plus times with all the goal line work, and he's a receiving back, and he's $6,100. That's the biggest thing. He's $6,100. This week, realistically, Joe Mixon should be, in my opinion, right here. He should probably be at 7K. He should maybe even be above David Johnson based on what he's been doing at around 73K. Same type of role. Maybe David Johnson gets a little bit more, but I understand with David Johnson playing Atlanta that, yes, That's a little bit of a better matchup than Oakland, but Oakland's still a solid matchup. I love Joe Mixon. I think a very common build is going to be one of these top guys with Joe Mixon, and then maybe going down for a guy like we'll get down here in Jalen Samuel. And again, I'm going to put Samuel in here. Yes, he's priced up. He should be priced up. He was mispriced last week because nobody thought James Conner was going to be out, at least ruled out that quickly. He's in a good matchup. Highest total on the slate. Last week, he outsnapped. Yes, Ridley got the touchdown, but he outsnapped him like 42, 44 to 8, whatever it was. He was on the field the majority of the time. Caught all seven of his targets. That's good to see that he's converting on those low 8-out targets. They ran some screens for him. Didn't get in the end zone and still had over 16 points for you. Now he goes up against New England, who has very slow linebackers, and he's a guy who's athletic, still can touch the ball on the ground a couple times a game. He got a carry inside the 5-yard line. He just didn't get the end zone carry, the touchdown carry like Ridley did. Now you might be a little scared, maybe revenge narrative with Stephen Ridley. All these guys have been scoring against the Patriots of late. I don't read too much into that, but maybe, right? But yeah, Jalen Samuel is a guy that I like a lot. These other guys, James White's an interesting contrarian play because he's always a guy to go for 2 touchdowns in a game for sure. Not really going to go there for me, though. Derrick Henry, I'll say one thing about Derrick Henry. He had a great game last week. Plays under prop. I think it's at like 65 yards or something like that. That would be his second best game of the year. Do you think he's going to follow up his best game of the year with his second best game of the year? Like, there's a possibility, right? I would attack the under on that one. That's just my opinion. I think it's just a little bit more elevated than it should be. It's usually in the 50s at most. Now it's at 65 because of what you saw last week. It's a good spot to take his player prop under. LaShawn McCoy, I'll watch. Obviously, is he going to play or not? That's something that you have to look into. If we come here to McCoy. Participant. So he participated in Thursday. Watch that. His home splits are incredible, especially when it's a close game or they're favored. So I do like LaShawn McCoy a lot in this position, especially now that he's less than $5,000, right? He's $4,800, and he's a guy who can go for 2 touchdowns, catch a couple of balls. And again, I think Josh Allen will be stopped on the ground this week. Maybe that translates to more dump-offs to LaShawn McCoy instead of scrambles. Coming down here, these guys price similarly. We don't know if Breed is out. Wilson's still a decent play, but against Seattle, who gives up a lot. Not going to touch it right now, though. Breed is in, then it could be the split that we don't really know what's going to happen. A lot of running backs have been getting the work out there when Morstead was there. Alfred Morris has been seeing some of it, so not something that I want to touch. I'll highlight Theo Riddick, but I'm just going to highlight him to talk about him. Probably not going to play him. If Bruce Ellington is out, Riddick's going to move into like that slot guy. He should see maybe 5 to 8 targets, if not more. And if he can get in the end zone against Buffalo, which is a low total game, could be a sneaky play at his price of $4,400. One of the guys who are value running backs this week for sure. I'm going to undo it because I'm not playing him at all. But if Ellington's out, maybe I go back on him. We'll see in my final pool. I'll put this on here because the last time Tevin Coleman was like this cheap and not producing at all, he went off for like a 30-point game, won people the Millie Maker, won people trips to the Fantasy Football World Championship. Going up against Arizona in a good spot where they should be leading the majority of the time at home, I believe. Yes, he has a great matchup, but he hasn't been getting the work, especially with Ito Smith out there, so it might come down a little bit on Ito Smith's part, taking away some carries, but this is a great matchup for him. We'll put him in there just because he's a cheap guy. Other than that, the other cheap guys I'll put on there are just Jalen Richard, good matchup against Cincinnati in a game where you can see maybe 10 targets. Upside there at 3,900. But there's not a lot of cheap running backs to go to here this week. That's probably all I'll really touch on at the running back position. Not a lot of value like we've seen in the past couple of weeks. Ito Smith maybe, not really touching it. The other guy actually is, nobody's going to talk about him, but he had 12 carries last week for the Lions. He kind of took over the LeGarrette Blount role. I don't even think he's listed on here. Maybe he is. I think I overlooked him. So Zach Zenner at $3,500. 12 carries last week. He got in the end zone. If you really want a dart throw, it's Zach Zenner. I'm not going to play him. All right. Now we're going to go wide receiver. I just have quick guys to kind of list off. Again, I like Cousins, so maybe Thielen gets back on track this week as well. If you're going to go with a Steelers wide receiver, a lot of people are going Juju this week. I like Antonio Brown, even if he's going to see Gilmore. I like him at home a lot. But Juju, obviously, people are going to see. They like him. Put them both in my tournament allocation. Devontae Adams is unguardable. I don't care the matchup. He's going to be seeing double-digit targets. He's going to be seeing all the red zone looks, and he converts on them. Some other guys I like Edelman. He's averaging like 10 targets a game or whatever it is. Something nuts a game. So he's definitely a guy that I want to have in my tournament allocation. Antonio Brown is going to be low owned this week. Or not Antonio Brown. Odell Beckham Jr. is going to be low owned this week. We'll have to see if he's in or not. Could be an interesting play if he's lower owned. Amari Cooper went out for a 50 burger. He's just been nuts the past couple of weeks since he's been in Dallas, but he's going to be super high owned this week, right? Everybody wants to jump on him. When Amari's chalk, I like to go away, especially if it gives you a huge edge. Doesn't have a great matchup this week. I'm probably going to totally fading it. Amari is dangerous, but I might, especially in some of my tournament allocations. Some of these other guys, I know a lot more people are going to be on TY. I'll probably be 20+% owned. Not going to touch him this week against Dallas, against Byron Jones. Again, I think he's in a decent spot. Not a juicier matchup, like I said previously in the week, but he's in a decent spot. Don't want to touch him. And then it's kind of like a wasteland here. I don't want any of this. I do want Allen Robinson at 5,500 against Green Bay. I think he's in a great spot. If they do end up passing the ball a lot, I think this is going to be a game where there's going to be limited passing opportunities. There's going to be maybe less time. It's going to be a slower pace type of game. But I do like Allen Robinson here. Adam Humphries is just priced up too much now. He's at $5,100 for a guy who doesn't have that extreme of a ceiling. Yes, he can get you a lot of receptions, maybe fall in the end zone, but not a huge ceiling like a guy right here in Calvin Ridley, who Julio Jones, we didn't talk about him, should be followed 60%, if not more of the time, like Galladay was last week, by Patrick Peterson. Peterson can absolutely take people out of the game. Galladay only had 2 catches for 5 yards against Patrick Peterson. Calvin Ridley is going to be on the other side of the field and running free against the number 2s. A couple of years ago, everybody played guys against the Cardinals guys. That should happen again. Right there below him, I like Chris Godwin, 4,900. Price doesn't change even though he got the same volume. 10 targets, just had an awful efficiency day, 1 catch on those 10 targets. But I think everybody's going to jump off of him for a guy who Deshaun Jackson should still be out. I like Chris Godwin a lot at 4,900. Price doesn't change, still gets the same volume. If everybody's jumping off, I'm going to stay right back on him. Usually the guys who are in good positions like last week and don't perform are still in that great position the week after, and people just jump off them. Tougher matchup, yes, but again, I think Mike Evans will see Jimmy Smith, and that leaves Chris Godwin up for an easier matchup. Getting down into this range, so there's definitely some plays here. I mean, Sterling Shepard, we could say if Odell's in, so let's just say you highlight Sterling Shepard now. He shouldn't be excluded, but say you highlight him now. If Odell plays, then you highlight Odell, something like that. Randall Cobb I'll highlight. We talked about him last week. He did pretty decent last week. He just owns Atlanta, but the other team that he owns is Chicago, right? I mean, you have that memorable touchdown to get the Packers into the playoffs a couple of years ago. Came back, had 6 targets. He's been the missing piece for this. He seems healthy now. 15 points last week. Should see some more targets this week as well. Robert Foster's been getting it done at 4,300. And these Bills, they still don't get priced up enough. Like Josh Allen's been killing it on the ground. He's still not in the 6K range. Robert Foster at 4,300 for a guy who's gone over 100 yards a couple times now, seeing increased targets, which is favorable. And he might not see Darius Slay if that ends up being Zay Jones. But Zay Jones might move into the slot a little bit more. Foster's a guy to watch at 4,300. Since I have limited wide receivers that I'm liking this week because I want to pay down to get up to those running backs, definitely Foster's in play for me. John Ross, another guy in play for me. So Oakland takes away the #1 wide receiver. Where'd he go? They're #1 in the league against pass DVOA against #1 wide receivers. Like taking away AB last week, they've taken away T.Y. Hilton in the past. But like we saw last week, Juju went off. So like the #2 guys are going off. Eric Ebron went off when T.Y. Hilton got taken out. So who's going to be those guys to go off? John Ross is definitely a candidate for a guy who's fast. I'm going to put him in there because Oakland's terrible against the pass besides #1 wide receivers, right? So it's a little interesting, different. You don't see stuff like that often. But we'll put John Ross in there for 4K. Other than that, there's not much. Cole Beasley's stats have just plummeted with Amari there. It's literally Amari, Zeke, or nobody. The other guy that's interesting is Trent Sherfield, I believe. Christian Kirk out. Sherfield kind of took over. He got 7 targets, 77 yards, put in a pretty good performance at only 3K. Price only comes up $400. Last week, this was the range. Deshaun Hamilton, who now plays on Saturday, but Deshaun Hamilton's price was 3K. And then if you had at 3,400 the Foster, those were the guys that won you the Millie Maker in that range. Again, that's not how it's always going to be, but there is some value down here if you want to pay up for those running backs. Going to tight end now, if we want to just be a little bit quicker with tight end because there's really not much in tight end land this week. A lot of the big names are off the slate. Yes, you still have Kittle. Yes, you still have Gronk. But tight end, I'm going to fade Kittle this week. I'm going to be putting Ebron in, although I am worried because the Cowboys can take away the tight end if they want. They took away Ertz last week, but they also saw Ertz twice, so they knew what to expect more so. Ebron really hasn't failed at all. I think the ownership is going to be going to Kittle because of what he did last week and Gronk because of what he did last week. Ebron in between there might lose a little bit of ownership. I'm also going to put Gronk, though. I'm going to watch him because I think he is back to where he should be. I think he's healthier now than he has been all year after sitting out a couple of weeks. And I think this is the time of the year they want to get Gronk going, approaching the playoffs. I feel like that's been their plan all season long. Against Pittsburgh, who hasn't been great against tight ends, you can get your way with tight ends when you're playing Pittsburgh. Another guy is Jared Cook, so I'm paying up a little bit, but Jared Cook, he's just been on a tear this year. Now he gets Cincinnati, one of the worst teams against the tight end, bottom 5 team against the tight end. Yeah, I just think that Jared Cook, back-to-back 100-yard games, that's not going to hold up, but these targets should probably hold up since there's nobody else out there. He's their best weapon by far, him and Jalen Richard, and they should realize to use him more. Gruden started taking him off the field more. Is that tank mode? I don't know, but he's been back up in his snaps the past couple of weeks. Maybe he was dealing with some undisclosed injury, but I like Jared Cook a lot as well. After that, I'm kind of jumping down, so if we filter this by price, I'm jumping down all the way down here. I don't want any of these guys. CJ Uzomah is a good spot against the last-placed Oakland Raiders against tight ends, right? Now, Uzomah, a couple of weeks, he had some nice target shares with Driscoll in there, and last week it kind of fell off. He had 8 target shares, just in a half really with Driscoll. Then he had 6, which is pretty good for a tight end. Now only 3. We've just mentioned how they're going to probably take out the number 1 wide receiver, and if they see that as being Tyler Boyd now, that leaves some opportunities open for guys like John Ross, for guys like Uzomah, CJ. I think that one of them should go up, and I'd rather play CJ at 3,600 because in tight ends, it's kind of a wasteland if you're not going to be paying up for these high guys. So he'll definitely be in allocations. Other than that, I like Anthony Firsker now that Jonnu Smith is out. Obviously, Delaney Walker is going to be out. Firsker is a guy that's just being seen and kind of being fed consistent targets. Now he gets the Giants, who've given up, I think, a 60 or 80% catch rate to tight ends over like the 80% catch rate over like the last 6 or 7 weeks to tight ends. Playing on limited snaps, like literally a quarter of the snaps, he was putting up decent points, right? Like over 5 points over a game over the past month on playing on a quarter of the snaps, 33% of the snaps. Now he should be getting all the snap work, at least 50%. Maybe you could see an uptick in those numbers. Other than that, tight end's pretty much a wasteland for me. I'm going to stay away from this mid-range. Austin Hooper's a guy that I do like. I'll put him in there. I usually play maybe 4 to 5 tight ends, depending on how many lineups I'm going to be putting in. Even 3 sometimes if I'm only going to be putting in like 20 lineups. So you can see here we got 4, 5, 6 guys highlighted. I'll probably drop this down to about 4 by the time the weekend comes. Defenses I don't really touch on. I like to just fill out the rest of my lineup, then fit a defense in. Something that I want to try is fill out the rest of my lineup, then fit a quarterback in, then fit a defense. So kind of play the quarterback last because we know how valuable running backs are, especially in the flex position. And wide receivers are pretty valuable as well in terms of getting the 100-yard bonus, easier than a quarterback getting a 300-yard bonus in terms of being able to get all of it in one chunk play, which quarterbacks can't really do unless they're going to do it on the ground. So kind of putting those quarterbacks in last because you got a lot of quarterbacks who can get you 20 points or even upwards of 30 points, like we saw Josh Johnson last week go for like 25.5. So might try and do that this week, try and fill out the quarterback position second to last, and then defense last as always for me. So at wide receiver, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 guys at the wide receiver spot. Probably honestly going to drop that down to around 8, so we'll cut out some of those cheaper guys maybe, and depending on how lineup construction's going, most likely going to filter out one of these pit guys. Don't want both of them, but it could be an interesting spot to play both of them with Big Ben. Going down at running back though then is really risky. So again, my plan as of right now, as of Thursday, with no more value opening up, mid to low range at wide receiver, pay up for both running backs, get a running back in the flex spot, and then just find value at tight end, find value at quarterback. I think we can do it on this slate. I'm tired of playing down for value and getting burnt with 10 points or at tops 15 points when these Zekes and these Saquons are each going for 30 plus a week. Now this will probably be the week that they both don't go for 30 and they both go for 20. But if it happens, that's what happens. I think it's plus EQ and something that I have to change about my strategy to go for these expensive guys, both of them at once more often. Going to be hard with them both in the 9K range. Going to be hard with them both in the 9K range, but I think that we can get it. So yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it. This is Draft Dashboard. Again, we watch listed 33 players. I'll probably end up watch listing maybe 3 or 4 more, a couple more receivers, a couple more running backs later on today as I look into this more. But we watch listed 33, probably get up to around 38 to 40. And then by the weekend, I'm going to cut it down to back down to 30, filter it down. You guys can see all the things that I do. If you sign up with the link below, you can get access to that watch list pool and all the new filtered versions of it for $1 for 30 days, Draft Dashboard. Check it out. Also check out the blog. I appreciate if you guys can check out the blog, show some support there. Trying to build it out. Instagram, new Instagram for the channel is in the handle below or the description below, along with my Twitter and all my other social medias. Hit a like button, hit a subscribe if you haven't. If you're not subscribed and you're still watching, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, show some support. Enter the contest, which wide receiver will score the most points. DraftKings points for the Sunday main slate. Drop a comment below. Have to be a subscriber. Best of luck on the Thursday game tonight. Best of luck. I won't have a Monday first look video. Maybe I'll put it out on Wednesday. Going to go to New York City with a girlfriend. Appreciate it, though. Best of luck. My name's Sal. Peace.